Hello, everybody. You can call me Cosmic Wes. I'm your cosmic navigator. Welcome to the day out of time. I'm with my brethren here from the 1328, helping uncapture time. First up, we have Makua Ray. Makua, how you doing this beautiful day?
Bro, I'm doing fantastic and just happy to be here. It's quite an auspicious moment, a long time coming. It's wonderful to see you and appreciate your presence here, bro.
And we also have Ruben. Ruben, how are you doing this beautiful day?
Hey, where's happy day out of time? Thank you for uh, coming to this conversation about time, doing a deep dive into natural time. And happy to see you again after all these years of co-creating a new paradigm, seeing you at different places around the world doing the seeding work of this knowledge, and thank you for having a conversation to wrap up the last 4 years of this campaign to shift our awareness about the calendar.
Exactly, exactly. So what we're doing is this deep dive on natural time, and let's go back in time to Makua, maybe 4 years or so ago. Tell us how this all started, and we'll just go chronologically for people.
Right on, right on. Thank you. 4 years ago, we had the opportunity to bring a conversation into a community called Nexus. And Nexus hosts summits each year at the United Nations headquarters in New York. And in 2016, I was working as communications manager with Nexus, and again had the opportunity to position a conversation about what we thought is a very important thing. Shortly before then, I met Ruben. We'd been actually working in the ecosystem with each other, not knowing each other for a few years before then, really back since 2012, 2013. But then we actually became aware of each other in 2014, I think it was 2015. And after doing an event in Washington, D.C. with Ruben there on the ground, well, I was actually in British Columbia anchoring the energy. This was an event that basically amplified the banner of peace, the symbol you see on Ruben's pendant right there. And that symbol is attributed to the 13 moon calendar change peace movement. And it represents protection of the biosphere, essentially. And in this way, we recognized that we needed to revive among a new generation of people, in many ways, this calendar change peace movement that had become relatively dormant from when there was an activation of it really at the beginning of this new millennium that didn't ever really come to fulfillment in terms of reaching the critical mass that we definitely recommend that the idea deserves. And so in the effort to bring this into a new community of thought leaders and change makers, people involved in philanthropy, people involved in education and culture, in a myriad of different issue areas, for example, looking at solutions, we thought this is a perfect place at Nexus to bring the conversation. And so near before the day out of time, I want to say it was July 23rd, or even maybe no, it's for day 22nd that year, 2016, we hosted a conversation with Wanik Shabazz, with Dr. Jewel Pookrum, with Tim Tussing, with Ruben, myself, on calendars and consciousness, basically questioning, do we think about the impact of the Gregorian calendar on our consciousness? Is it something that we're aware of, has a deep effect on our habits, customs, rituals, day-to-day activities, the way we schedule our lives, unconsciously using this as the dominating paradigm and the time frequency, not conscious to its impact. So we wanted to have the conversation to help make conscious the the negative impacts of following this Gregorian calendar without an awareness over so many centuries. And that led then to us establishing out of that event, establishing something called the Global Calendar, the Global Council for Calendar Awareness. And it was really born out of the seeds of us being at Nexus that particular event. I want to back up and say one of the things that really stood out for us, Ruben and myself, when we were preparing for this presentation through Nexus, was when we did the mathematics, we realized that there with Pakal Votan, whom people are learning about or will learn about with relationship to this information. He was a Mayan ruler and leader who was born 603 AD, died in 683 AD. And his tomb, his pyramid called the Temple of Inscriptions in Palenque, Chiapas, Mexico, was dedicated, completed in the year 692. And we, just because we work with numbers, we do the factoring of pretty much everything just to understand the alignment and what's being communicated. We realized that we're going to the UN to promote a 1328 calendar paradigm, 13 months, 28 days as a solution. We realized and didn't know this, but felt the wind at our back, literally discovering this, recalling or recognizing this, that there's 1328 years between the dedication of Pakal's tomb and this year 2020. That we realized that that was a fulfillment of sorts, a real mathematical prophecy, if you will, that suggested we would proceed on what is a 4-year campaign. That, you know, this conversation is really in many ways a culmination of that 4-year campaign.
Right, right. And Ruben, you and Makua worked together remotely on this topic before even meeting each other. And then when you did meet each other, tell us about that moment, and then you can take us chronologically from there.
When I was introduced to Makua, it was through an elder from Florida that we were already working on a campaign to educate people around the area of Washington, D.C. about the banner of peace, and that there is a symbol that was created back in the 30s that was the first peace treaty signed in Washington, D.C. by 21 nations in April 15, 1935, and that this is still a valid treaty. So we thought that it was a perfect opportunity, the year 2016, with the reestablishment of relationships between Cuba and the US to bring back to DC this symbol through the Roerich Museum, and present them the possibility of reviving the symbol in Washington, D.C. So this was kind of the inspiration for us to launch in 2016 a campaign to promote the values of peace through culture. The year 2020 gives us the opportunity to really see the harmony behind the numbers, like Makua was explaining. And this is the year to bring a time shift in consciousness. This is the marker that we envision as a real gateway for bringing this information in a new way to the larger audience. We live in a time-space reality, and we talk a lot about space, but as Jose Arguelles said, we are moving in space and evolving in time. And space is of the senses and time is of the mind. So this time shift that we are now coming to this 1328 year marker is related to a sequence of events that have been putting this information in the collective consciousness for the 33 years since the harmonic convergence. So when we decided to embark on this 4-year adventure with Makua, we decided that it was important, in order to make this transition a gentle one, it was important to simplify and harmonize the information. And a way to simplify all this Mayan knowledge that is very elegant and very complex can be synthesized in very simple tools. And what we have been doing since we met is looking for ways to really simplify the information, make it more accessible, and introduce it as a solution for the challenges that we are now witnessing. on the planet. So Jose also said that the only way to meet this crisis is by shifting our consciousness. And what better way to shift our consciousness than shift our perceptions of time? So something as simple as understanding that a 12-month irregular calendar is a harming tool for our biology, in the same way that radiation is harming for our biology, is important to see that there is an opportunity to go back into the cycles of time. And the first step is adopting a regular 13 moon 28-day calendar that regulates the cycle of menstruation in women and who is connected to our biorhythm. So we want to create the tools that will enable people to get back in tune with nature. And what we have been doing for the last 4 years is just creating different avenues and tools and ways to introduce this information, so it's educational and it's easy to grasp for the next generations. Our focus for now that we are wrapping up these 4 years is to focus on creating materials for children and keep simplifying the information, make it more accessible, more universal, and in the process of doing so, weaving relationships, creating space for conversations to take place, and in that way being part of the shift that is taking place around the planet.
Right. And after presenting at the United Nations, strategically, it's intuitive that this movement needed to resonate with the other natural movements out there, whether it's the biodiversity movement, or the freedom from government movement. All of this is the direction that this is going. And so the next place to present was at the Pioneers Conference. Makua, why don't you bring us that picture and explain how that went down?
Yeah, so with and through some of your weaving and your navigation, we were given the invitation to participate at Pioneers, and I want to say that was 2017, was it? I think that was the next time that we had the chance to present in a very intentional way like this.
And maybe tell people what that conference is about too, if people aren't up to speed.
Right. So for those who are aware and not aware, Pioneers is a convening of, and a very long time convening, I think over how many years now? 40 years, is it? It's a pretty long-standing gathering in Northern California where...
29 years.
29 years, okay. I'm not trying to age the movement. It's like that, but we get it. But the idea is that this is a gathering that brings together people who are at the front line and the leading edge as it relates to regenerative and sustainable solutions and community-oriented approach. It's very much a part of a long-standing community. It intersects with indigenous wisdom and communities very deeply. It involves young people in the arts. It involves leaders in science and technologies and healthcare products and architecture and all sorts of things. Natural solutions, basically anything that you can imagine relative to the green solution movement. It's present at Pioneers. And because our calendar concerns consciousness and returning into sync with natural cycles, it made perfect sense that we would have the opportunity to present there. And so the lab on regenerative culture that we helped to ignite at Nexus became the sponsor of a dome within which we were able to present our information alongside other presenters. I think including the Buckminster Fuller organization was present there.
Yeah, it's love being in a geodesic dome with the Buckminster.
We love being
It's
perfect. It makes perfect sense. So we had the chance to have a presence there and really network with people out who are living into the future, I would say, because there's a lot of people out here that aren't necessarily as connected with each other as yet, but are becoming more and more aware of each other. And there have been many people in the field in this way for many years, generations now, in fact. So it's really a synthesis of all these things. And so we were invited to present, and in the sense of having a presence. We gave a couple of talks inside the dome, and people were really, really interested and very open to learn more. And so I think that was a great opportunity for us to take it from the halls of the UN and the conference of Nexus into the grassroots, really on the ground in California, because at the outset, we really had the intention of doing our best to reach people at various levels and spaces and places and stages of consciousness, in fact. And so this was our introduction really into what then became our appearances at festivals. And that would follow as another way for us to reach out in this educational effort.
Right, right. So Ruben brought up that there's an opportunity here to create information for children. And the reason this is completely left out of our educational system and the university system and what we see conferences and festival lifestyle, this is the new university or the new mystery school where you go and you can take classes on body movement or meditation or sound baths and, calendar reform. And so I think one of the first places we took it was tribal gathering. Ruben, you want to tell us about that one?
Yeah, well, it's important also to note that this information has brought us to places and spaces that we are starting to interact with, and tribal gathering was that kind of space. It was a 18-day experience, immersive experience in the jungles of Panama with indigenous people from all over the world, and with the opportunity to live in community for those 3 weeks and share wisdom, share experiences, interact with other cultures, understand and appreciate our differences. And we thought that that's the kind of the perfect microcosm that we want to plant this message in. So we had the opportunity to give two talks there with really good reception from the people assisting there. Most of the people coming to these events, they are looking in the new world. They most come from the West, and they're looking in the new world, new inspiration, new ways of living, a much more a life more connected with nature, more simple, and of course the ancestral medicines. So these type of events then become like social experiments in which you learn about all the shadow side and all the light side of it, and I think we go to these events knowing that we are planting seeds of awareness in people who are looking for solutions, who are not just going to distract themselves and party for 3 weeks in a row, but to really dive deep into human interactions, into learning from each other and sharing knowledge from all over the world. So this is information that we want to be spread around the world. And today, Day Out of Time, which is the day, the green day, is the blank canvas where we paint with our intentions. With this entire broadcast is an offering of love. Really, is an honor to the celebration of this day, opening a window of opportunity to really create a new paradigm by living that new paradigm. So Day Out of Time is a completely time is art initiative. It's been that's the nature of it, and we want to honor this 28th version of Day Out of Time with the closing of this educational campaign and with the intentions of educating the next generations on this information that is key for the evolution of the planet, because we are right now at this evolutionary junction. And I think we are all feeling it. We are all feeling the pressure. We are feeling the unconscious coming out into the conscious awareness and integrating our shadow side. So part of the integration of the shadow is this shift from one consciousness or trapped in time, in artificial time, to one that is liberated into natural cycles of time. That one that fosters evolutionary change that is organic, that is not driven by the machine. So when Jose Arguelles launched the harmonic convergence in 1987, the seeds that were planted are growing now 33 years later, and this initiative is part of that process of evolution on Earth. It's just that within the larger picture, we need to complete these cycles in order to make them conscious. So we are completing 28 years from Day Out of Time of 1992, which was the first celebration, because that was the first day that this green day, or this gap in between worlds, was made conscious. Jose Arguelles and Holoidin Arguelles baptized it as the time shift that we spoke before. So we have been on a 20-year process of shifting our perceptions of time. And what better time than now, 28 years after this shift in human thought, to make it conscious again and wrap the cycle, because the Gregorian calendar runs on a 28-year program that repeats itself. So if we take a pocket calendar from 1992 and one from 2020, we will see that both are the same distribution of days. So the irregularity becomes regular. And because this is part of what we have been calling the harmonic convergence of timelines. It's like a redemption of artificial time by means of making this mental shift conscious. And this broadcast is part of making it conscious for an audience that has been probably unaware that this information even exists, because we have been using a calendar that is not in alignment with the natural cycles of time. So it's bringing us, all of us as a civilization, out of alignment with nature. And we are is the perfect junction point to come into alignment again, to all people on Earth come together in bringing this shift in consciousness, and it happens through the mind. So again, space is of the senses and time is of the mind. So we are shifting into a new consciousness of time, and we are shifting our consciousness into the next harmonic of 28 years. So that's the point that we are right now. That's why all these aspects of the unconscious are coming now to the surface, and we are. It feels like a big opportunity to start within a brand new slate, brand new system, reboot the entire system from the root, and the root is the calendar.
If, as we are all looking toward shifting paradigms, if we don't address the underlying impacts of this calendar that we're all still in one way or another using to organize and schedule our business and our engagements and our appointments in times and dates, intimidation, then if we don't make that conscious and offer a solution, then we're missing a very important opportunity. So we framed the 12+1 model based in cosmometry, where we look at each moon in successive order as addressing a different area of human concern. And so among them, we begin by presenting it as a shift from this to that. So initially, the magnetic moon, the first moon of the 13-moon year, that always begins July 26. It's always correlated to July 26, so people know. And that's because this calendar, as a galactic solar lunar count, is attributed, its start point is attributed to the rising, the heliacal rising of the star Sirius. which is at 19.5 degrees specifically. This is a very important thing to note because the calendar is not arbitrary. It's actually rooted in natural cycles that have been long observed, long tracked by communities, cultures all over the planet forever. Okay. As long as people became aware, and since as long as people have been aware of our place in time, space, and circumstance. That being said, we start the year July 26th with the magnetic moon. That moon in this array of 12 plus 1, we see as a shift from hierarchy to holarchy. It's addressing infrastructure, okay, as a social human concern, infrastructure, beginning with infrastructure, hierarchy to holarchy. From there, we move to incoherence to coherence in the second moon. The second moon, we understand in this creative frequency, relates to challenge. The first moon, the first month, is all about attracting and unifying in purpose. The second moon is really recognized as the energy of stabilization and polarization, challenge. So you're stabilizing and polarizing in order to strengthen something. And so we get challenged in order to become stronger. And that's the idea. So an idea, creative inspiration, for example, in any creative cycle, the second step is always met with challenge. I like to think of the challenge as what actually supports our gifts to emerge, because it's our gifts that help us meet the challenge. And any challenge can be met if we have the will to meet it. So in this case, we look at incoherence to coherence as the shift regarding communications specifically. So we're talking about infrastructure, communications. From there, we take it to economics, right? That's obviously a huge consideration and concern, from scarcity to abundance, knowing that there's more than enough for everyone to have more than enough. Really, that's a fact. It's a matter of the equal distribution of these things as a systemic shift, understanding that economics and the models of old no longer apply to an awakened humanity, will not apply, or it completely inappropriate. So we look at scarcity to abundance as the shift. The fourth moon we attribute, the self-existing moon it's called, which is about definition and form, in this system relates to governance. And we look at the shift from authority to self-governance. From authority to self-governance. The age of putting the onus of responsibility on externalities and factors that we don't actually have control over is over, because we can't be looking at external leaders to adequately govern what needs to be governed and safeguarded and kept sacred. It's incumbent upon each one of us to be responsible. So hence self-governance. When you shift your consciousness, you begin to recognize I'm actually responsible for my life. I'm responsible. There's not some elected official that's going to actually do this accounting for me. I'm actually accountable. And I'm remiss to actually put that on some external authority. That's not going to help in the future. The idea of the future really is that the future is all about self-governance. It's all about taking accountability and meeting each other equally in our mutual accountability, just to ensure that things don't continue to run amok as they have been. The fifth moon is all about the arts. It's about radiance. It's about empowerment. And so we look at the arts as having great merit and value. I mean, obviously the Tao of Time celebrates time as art. That's a consciousness shift from time as money to time as art. That we are co-creators of our experience on this planet together, co-creators together. The sixth month we look at through a lens of justice, recognizing that for there to be balance and order, that we have to really achieve justice, actual justice, and this way shifting from inequity to equality in all parts, in all ways. And that distribution of value, distribution of what we hold to be wealth, resources, etc. All of this, obviously comes into scope when we look at the rhythmic moon of equality, justice. The seventh moon, the seventh month, which Ruben pointed out earlier, we're about to enter a 7 column in one aspect of this calendar, the 260-day count. There are 13 columns. We're about to enter the 7th column. 7 in any array always represents balance. It represents the middle. When we look at our human form, for example, we identify 13 articulations from our, if we start on the right ankle, the knee, the hip, the wrist, elbow, shoulder. The seventh is the spinal column. Okay, this is what assures balance, and the neck and that whole system. And then you have the same reflection down the other side of the body, the other 6 articulations. So 7 in any case reflects balance. It's the mirror. It's the way through which we attune to anything. So in this case, we look at the systems change reflecting health and wellness. 7, the balance. No system matters if we don't have well-being. That's the point. Like, the point of life is to embody wellness, and we can do that, especially when we live in sync and in tune with nature. So the 7th moon month reflects health and wellness, shifting from disease to balance. The 8th, on the other side of that mirror, okay, beginning that second side, as I just pointed out, we move into science and technology, from irrational to rational. Science serves a purpose. It's not the whole of it. Let's be very clear. It absolutely serves a sacred purpose, though. And when utilized for purposes of the sacred, it is a phenomenal vehicle for transformation. And we see this happening with many solutions emerging and approaches. This is why, again, the Buckminster Fuller approach, in terms of systems, in terms of how that consciousness can be applied to science. When you think of yourself, I do consider, really, frankly, truth seekers in a way are scientists. People who practice yoga are scientists. It's the science of the physical mechanics of form. It's the science of the qualities and the value and the quantity of breath, its impact in the human systems. It's understanding physics. It's understanding biology. These are sciences. So we look at that from irrational to rational. We know that it has a proper application. The 8th month is also interesting because it's the month in which harmony is amplified. Harmony is an emphasis. The 8th month in this system reflects the galactic tone of integrity. And we know that if we really step out and think about it, the galaxy itself ensures integrity, because every so often through these galactic wave cycles, there's an energy that's happening right now. It's happened before and it's happening again, that sweeps through the creation to ensure integrity. And anything that is not in integrity gets reconfigured. It gets recycled. It gets removed. If you don't choose your change chooses you. Okay? And so this is what the galaxy in its nature ensures. That's what it does. It dispenses the quality of integrity. And as a result, we're able to harmonize. The objective for the human species is to model this integrity. And so that's the 8th moon and what that reflects. And science and technology have a huge role to play in achieving this. It's not that that's the whole goal, though. Again, we're not to put our responsibility on technology. It's really on the human soul. We have to become responsible human beings, and then the technology will work in harmony with us. It won't lord over us. We are escaping, make no mistake, we're escaping a machine, a mechanized situation that we've not been conscious of for a very long time, and we've become conscious in recent years. But it's not to shift from that mechanization into a more dominating framework of technology that removes the human altogether. That's not part of the path forward for our regenerative well-being, I would say. You know, I certainly think there are some movements out there using technology that we have to bring in through a lens of justice and through a lens of harmonization and integrity. Is that really in our best interest for families and for the future? These are questions we need to ask critically. The tone 9 is about intention, the 9th moon. And in this consciousness shift, we're looking at 9 relating to spirituality. We realize that we're moving away from dogma. We're moving away from lording over religions where there's a very scary, fear-inducing idea of divinity that keeps us, shackled mentally. That keeps us. There's one thing about having a fear of God out of respect. That is recognizing the awesomeness of creation and its creator. There's another thing, though, when it's a matter of fear through assault and trauma. We have to come to terms with the fact that the entire underpinning of the nation of the United States, of great North America, has been achieved through traumatization, through perpetuating colonial domination. And we realize that the Gregorian calendar is the encoding of that ideation. That's the encoding of colonization. So that calendar that has been completely removed from nature, it's cut off the 13 to take the 12, if you will, cutting off the divine feminine, some would say, to have a patriarchal framework as opposed to matriarchal cultures that many indigenous traditions happen to be, where women are at the seat of power. They're centric to the whole thing. This paradigm that we've been forced to live within and under for 4 centuries or more was perpetuated out to the world largely through religion. We have to understand that. It was delivered to the world in mass and then psychologically impaling consciousness with this idea of domination and submission. The position of any type of superiority to inferiority is a complete fabrication, completely. So we just have to completely stop it. It's not going to vibrate into the future. It's incapable of doing that, primarily because the new generations being born are not born in that mindset. They're coming from the future. They're not born with a subjugated consciousness already. The parents, fortunately, having children now, are on this side of this arc into this age of Aquarius, some would say, or what the Maya identified as the completion of the 13th Baktun, and recognizing that shifting point of December 21st, 2012, into this new phase of reality. These children born really since 1970 aren't going to go for that formulation anymore. It's not congruent with the nature of who we actually are. And we know too much now to keep the genie in the bottle, so to speak. It's and this is why we see things, complete disarray on the world stage, because it's a lot of smoke and mirrors that are trying to keep people distracted from the fact that this evolutionary shift is inevitable. It's already done. It's already happened. We're just now witnessing how these parts are coming together. Spirituality is the 9th tone. It reflects the 9th month in this 13-month cycle. And it really is from matter over spirit to spirit over matter. It's remembering that we are spiritual beings on a temporary physical experience. That soul consciousness is who we are. The form will change, because all things of form will change. And so as we get cognizant to who we are, we recognize, we remember who we are, we'll have a much more harmonious way to navigate these physical vessels for the purposes set forth. The 10th moon is the moon of manifestation. This is environment. And we look at the shift in consciousness from ego to eco. I know that's a popular meme out there now. We've seen it at Pioneers, at Lightning in the Bottle, from ego to eco. So recognizing who we are in relationship to the sacred earth, recognizing that we're not meant to promote, perpetuate extractive practices with our mother, with the planet Earth. This is sacred business here. We have to recognize eco and reflect on where we need to shift from what's been the ego-based approach to resourcing, to things of this nature. And we realize, we understand to a large degree what it's resulted in. And we see ways in which this is actively shifting, which is very exciting. The 11th moon is reflecting education and learning. So we're moving from ignorance, okay, to gnosis, to knowing, to you can't act like you're unaware. You're in an age where it's readily available to know. If you don't know, it's because you are choosing not to know at this point. It really is. There's really no excuse. The children are coming in knowing, and either you're just ignoring them, okay, and quieting them and muzzling them, or you're not. You're actually listening to them. A child shall lead them. You're heeding the wisdom of these young people who are star seeds coming in right now. And systems themselves are being reconfigured. If this pandemic situation has done any good, it's helping accelerate the reconfiguration, because now people are gradually, although it may not appear so on the surface, they're being given an opportunity to go within. They're being given an opportunity to actually pause for the cause and make a decision to reconfigure their own approach to how they want to vision and live into the future. The 12th moon, the 12th month, we know the Gregorian ends at 12. We know that this one actually completes with 13. But the 12th moon, or month in this case, is relations and community, from competition to cooperation. In the 13 moon calendar, the 12th tone reflects the crystal tone of cooperation. So this idea of a lone wolf or a singular leader or figurehead or any of these things it's not actually how this is happening. It's happening as a result of a rising tide of consciousness that's experienced and expressed through countless people waking up. And that's a super exciting prospect, you know. And now part of the challenge and the opportunity is, how do we connect with people who are waking up? How do we connect in coherence? How do we connect and share resources and ideas and build consensus, build equality, build mutual respect and value for this that we say we are here to do? And part of that is, again, moving from this competitive sense, okay, into a real cooperative way of being. Everything in nature is interconnected. We've heard this the past several years, people like, all life is interconnected. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Like, we've known this. It's good, because I respect the fact that people have been really dead asleep. It's true. And living in their isolation and thinking they have to shoulder everything themselves. That's old paradigm thinking. If we wake up and realize the time of the lone wolf is over, like the Hopi say, the Hopi prophecy says, look, the river is moving swiftly. Get off the shore and jump in the river, because you don't want to miss the flow. Okay? And when you tumble into that water, not knowing where it's going to take you, you look up, you look around, and you see who else is in there with you, and know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're not alone. You're not the only one shouldering the responsibility. Our opportunity and obligation now is to come together. That's why we're so grateful for the platform of Unify, the collaboration of such an amazing consciousness movement, bridging technology and communications, enabling the human family to actually listen to, hear, respect, and see each other, you know, in many new and different ways. And their tentacles are all over the world in all sorts of fantastic circles, and all these concentric circles of this sacred flower arrangement that we see as culture and society emerging. The 13th month is really very important. We look at calendar systems as centric to this, because obviously our whole campaign is to promote a calendar change. We want to shift from the the global civil standard of the Gregorian calendar into the harmonic standard of the 13-month, 28-day calendar as a global harmonic standard. And this completing 4 years of this effort, we see now the time could not be more ripe than to continue to make this conscious with people. And so the 13th month, again, reflects calendar systems, and it's a shift from decay, entropy, okay, to evolution. From decay to evolution. That's the consciousness shift. If people want to learn more about these, this conversation that we've been presenting the past couple of years, we have materials on our website, 13months28days.info. You can download versions of the transitional calendar, the 13-month, 28-day calendar. As Ruben said, we decided to distill out some of the basics of the calendar shift conversation, not to neglect the other dynamic components, because there are many components to this timing frequency. And one of the very important components is a 260-day Tzolk'in calendar, tracked by the Maya. And in its numerical significance, it reflects the gestation cycle, the average gestation cycle for human fertility and birth. So again, it's a natural cycle. It's considered the galactic count. And when you factor the 13-month, 28-day calendar by that 260-day calendar, it takes a total of 52 years for these two counts to synchronize with each other. That's important also, because it means that everybody has what's attributed to them as their signature. So we invite people to go to 13months28days.info, where they can find this document that breaks down, it's a PDF, it's a free download, that breaks down the basic framework that we just described. This has been the completion of the past 4 years. Now, where we're heading with the intention yet to still establish a harmonic standard is we're looking at these other converging timelines, including the 13-month calendar, the 260-day Zolkin, as well as making conscious the traditional long count that tracks a whole Baktun cycle, 13 cycles of 144,000 days each. That's a very long cycle, but very relevant. It is looked at as a linear count, an ancestral count in many ways. It relates as an earth count because the qualities that are described therein based on a person's birthday attribute to their earth form and their purpose in relationship to the natural world. The galactic calendar, the work of Jose Arguelles particularly, that gives us this day out of time today, for example, is a count from the future. It's attributed to those time travelers that were said to have come back to Earth to encode and seed from the stars, seed this information, that it would be released like a time capsule at a certain time in reality, in the sequence of events. That's why the number 1328, being the span of years between 692 AD and the year 2020, is so significant. Everything is a number. As our friend Aaron likes to describe, that these numbers aren't about quantity as much as they're about quality. And we can begin to understand the communication of numbers when we recognize that they're communicating a quality to us. They're communicating a sense of something, the qualitative experience that we're made to have. And so when you begin to look at numbers as describing a quality, it gives a much more meaningful relationship to beginning to understand who you are based on your number, based on your Zolkin number, for example, whether it's the long count or whether it's the dream spell count was introduced to the westernized mind to help break the dream spell, to break the spell of the dream we've all been living under in Babylon's system. That's a fact. So with that said, you can also synchronize those two counts and get what's called a universal time count, which is a very powerful way to see how these things literally do synthesize and harmonize. There's a point where the Mayan traditional count and the dream spell count synchronize in the future, meaning where there's a 4-year period where they are operating in direct reflection of each other. So when in this count, it's a day at a time, it's a magnetic mirror, it'll be a magnetic mirror also in the traditional long count for that 4-year sequence. That doesn't happen for another 168 years though. So anyway, the important thing is to understand that these reflections of timing inherent in nature will naturally synthesize. They will naturally harmonize. We just have to make the conscious decision to be a part of that. That's the opportunity before us as systems, as individuals, as communities, all which create systems.
Hi, welcome to the Out of Time. We have a very special guest, Sasha Stone and Ruben.
Hello, Sasha. Happy day out of time. Thank you for accepting this invitation. And thank you for all the work that you have been doing all these years to bring some awareness to the planet.
Can you mention to us on the 20th?
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, Milana.
Ruben, can you share with us on the cycle that you're going through? Why it makes it so special, the 28th?
Yeah, we were speaking with Milana and Sasha before starting the interview that this is the 28th version of the Out of Time, so it's the wrapping up of 4 cycles of 7 years, and this 2020 is bringing us like an opportunity to see ourselves in the mirror. This day out of time is white magnetic mirrors. We are entering the mirror axis of the Solkin matrix, and we want to know, how do you perceive the current planetary situation? What's your take on what is going on and what is holding the future?
Very good. I knew Jose Arguelles. He came and stayed at my home in Bali about 10 years ago. before he died. And it was from him that I learned a great deal, obviously, from the harmonic convergence to the day out of time, 1992. And like you say, 28 years of that extraordinary celebration, which was really beginning the process of learning how to step out of time. And I think that that is the beautiful gift of learning about these cycles, that we are the ones who can determine to withdraw our attention and our enslavement to the fiction of a reality which was orchestrated for us by many old imprints and codes, which were not very friendly to the living soul, but were very friendly to egregore and to other interests. Now, where are we in 2020? We are at that perfect, indivisible line between the fictitious and the real, between the living and the dead, between the masked and the unmasked. And this is the beauty of what we are seeing all around the world today, with the symbols of death, disease, fiction. These are ideas, bad ideas. They don't truly exist. They only become existent when enough people place attention toward these bad ideas, and then they manifest. Now, we have had a galactic cycle of sleep, of war, of disease, and of poverty. And we are now tired of that. And we simply need to transmute this bad dream into the good dream. This is the old world versus the new earth. We are coming also, don't forget, out of a 500-year cycle of enslavement to monotheistic religious bullshit. The Roman Catholic Church, all of the monotheistic religions created a false imprint also at the psychological and spiritual level. And again, we see the catastrophic failure of the global banking system, of the Vatican, of the European royalty, of the old order and the old principalities. This is a beautiful, beautiful time of celebration. This is the time for us to not fall back into enslavement to the apocalyptic ideas, but instead to recognize that the apocalypse is the greatest gift. It is where we come of age. In the same way that in 1987, in August, on that most propitious day, when the First Nation peoples of the world, from Papua New Guinea to Mozambique to Alaska, they all knew in their psionic center, in this true gut, they knew we were moving into the transition. And what happened on that day of the harmonic convergence? Millions and millions of wisdom keepers, flame keepers, oracles, shaman of the First Nations, they all picked up that psionic message and they stood up and they saluted the sky on that day. Central Sun, 1987 was an incredibly important day. And when I sat down with Jose Arguelles under the stars here in Bali 10 years ago, and I asked him the question, I said, Jose, what was taking place on that day? Even now, the harmonic convergence is regarded as the single biggest organic event that occurred in our history. That's well known. I said, what was happening on that day at the metadimensional level? And he had his wand and he said, oh, it's very simple. He said, on that day, we were standing up, all of us, the First Nation peoples, to salute our sky brothers and sisters and to tell them, enough, we can take it from here. We have come of age. And that is the truth. 1987 was where we began to get onto our feet. 2012 was when the galactic audit was conducted across the symphony of the human collective heart. And we passed that test. I was in Chichen Itza, and that was the last time I saw my beloved Milana, actually, was in 2012. I had been at Chichen Itza at the ceremony there with the Mayans. And I tell you what, we had an incredible day. And from 2012 to 2020 to now, right now, this is the end of that long cycle. This is where not only do we come of age and do we fully stand on our feet, this is where we actually tear the mask off our face. The reason why billions of people are wearing masks on their face today because of this corona pantomime is symbolic of that deep unresolved aspect of the collective and at the individual level. We are each of us seeking to release ourselves from the ritual humiliation of ages. We are wanting now, each of us, to tear that mask off. That is why many people are wearing the mask. They need to see themselves with it on in the mirror for a period of time to recognize how they are the ones who have taken a departure from their own reason, from their own conscience, and from consciousness itself. So what is going to come out from this pantomime, this theatrical production that we are seeing, is the living will emerge from the land of the dead. The organic and the sentient, like the diamond in the coal, will emerge from this shadow boxing that is going on. All of the symbols are beautiful around us. The geometry of now is always perfect, always, provided each of us are able to maintain a state of perfect balance within and a state of witness. Do not identify with the symbols, with the totems, with the ideas. They are all in a state of, tribulation, pandemonium, chaos. This is how the old Babylonian priesthood always created new spells to cast a new dream spell over humanity, always by orchestrating the chaos. And only in the chaos did they know they could create a new agenda, create a new software installation, a new program. Not this time. That's over. That is the beauty of 2020. It is inner sight. It is a clarifying of the inner lens of those of us who are truly joining our galactic brothers and sisters. And I can tell you absolutely, there are sufficient numbers of us who have awakened all around the world. The war is already won. A few little battles here and there, but the war is won. And it's a beautiful, beautiful outcome.
Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing words and great to hear from someone like you who knows all the levels of deception in this hologram that is bringing, that you are bringing now all these aspects of the Gregorian calendar and as part of that entanglement and of tools that we have been subjected to, and that this is the time to free ourselves and to liberate from these shackles. So what is the vision that you hold for the future in starting this day out of time? How do you see this transformation, this shift, paradigm shift taking place on an bird's eye view?
Let me ask the staff to stop sweeping 1 moment. Sorry, I just had to ask him to stop sweeping the garden for a moment. You know, it is my vision is no different today than it was 10 years ago. It is absolutely the same. It is an invitation to myself first, and then to those that I impact, and then to the human family at large. It is an invitation to step out of the fiction of time. This 1260 time signature is the toxin. This is the source code of war and disease and poverty. If you truly sit with the idea of time, tick-tock, 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 it is a false program that has been installed a long time ago in order to remove humanity from the land, to break our relationship with the natural cycles and rhythms and circadian rhythms and cycles, the galactic cycles. It is a perfect intercessionary principle to stand between us and our divinity. This idea that we are running out of time and that we need to calibrate our lives according to a clock, which is a false signature anyway, takes us away from the 13-month lunar calendar into a 12-month calendar, a complete false program, which at the psychological and spiritual level dislocates us, throws us into dystopia and dysfunction, individually and collectively. This was very, very clever Babylonian magic. And of course, the Roman Catholic Church and the Vatican took center stage in creating this false narrative using the Julian calendar and the 1260 time signature. So if we know in our deepest knowing that the idea of time is what programs death into the DNA, which it is the idea of time that sits inside us from our very birth all the way through to the last moments of our life when we feel the spirit leaving us. And even then we are looking at the clock going, how much time do I have left? How many more minutes can I be in the embrace of my beloved? This is nonsense. All of it is a bad idea. But you get enough people, enough human dynamos, capacitors of life force. That is what a human is. We are like a nuclear power station. Every human being, each one has the capacity using the vibro prana to drive the entire electrification of the planet. We are so incredibly powerful. Now, when you take billions of human beings or hundreds of millions and you subvert their attention, their consciousness into false ideas, they project that plasma, that chi, that prana toward these ideas, and they give life to bad ideas that are dead, but they create the idea of life. So we are the ones who are allowing ourselves to be harvested in order that our life force, our attention, even our tax dollars pays for these bad ideas to become manifest. Stop. It is just a question of recognizing this, that I am the flame. I am the divine. I am the capacitor of all that is. I am. That's it. And I withdraw my attention from bad ideas and bad people and bad concepts and bad dreams. And I begin in this place to dream wisely. And in doing that, my attention, my life force moves toward this new manifest outcome. Every time it happens this way. Humans steer the planet. We steer the climate. We steer all the outcomes. The problem is most of us, most of the time, do not know that it is us who are manifesting the outcomes. We assume that we are victims of circumstance, that we are simply pulled into this. All of these ideas must leave us now. We must release ourselves from this fiction. We are the living, we are not the dead. The old bad ideas are perfectly enshrined with the idea of time. Do not look at a clock. It is death. Do not look at a wristwatch. Take it off. I urge people. Remove yourself from this TikTok mania. It is death. Happy birthday? No, I don't think so. Birthday celebrations? I don't think so. Again, we are programming death into our children from a young age. We are programming into them the idea that they are now 5, 6, 7. They're running out of time. How many kids at the age of 22 are in a state of paranoia because they think they've already lived their youth? I speak to so many young people who think at the age of 18, 19, 20, it's over. They'll never be 15 again. All these ideas. We are enslaved to this all because of the idea of time. Stop programming death into DNA by celebrating time. Only celebrate the geometry of now. Only celebrate the geometry of now. And if one can do that, one enters into the immanent, immortal paradigm. As an individual, you can begin that journey into immortality. You do not need to have anyone agree with this. This is the true hallmark of the shaman throughout the ages, to be able to step into timelessness and suspend the aging process, suspend all of the death coding in our gene expression. We have the power to do it. When we collectively do it, we change the entire holonomic field. And we are on the verge of that. I guarantee you, Ruben, within 7 years, linear years of now, within 7 linear years, certainly within 10, we will absolutely see the end of all government. There will be no such fiction as government any longer. There will be no central banking, or banking itself will become a thing of the past. Usury, the exploitation of the time and motion of humanity, will no longer be permissioned in this world. All of the merchant class of intercessionaries, in lawyers and doctors and teachers who are not standing in the flame of wisdom and truth, will no longer have any place in this world. Everyone must begin to transition themselves from their false light into the wisdom flame. That is, lawyers, bankers, teachers, everyone must now look to themselves and go, am I living in my bliss? Am I surfing my bliss? Have I entered the ecstatic, the orgasmic, or not? And if your life is not orgasmic, you have fucked up. You must, at that point, recognize that the change must come from you. We are born to this world to depart from fiction, to manifest and embody the highest, most noble expression we are capable of. We will come under fire. There will be people around us who turn on us and attack us. They will defile us. They will slander us. They will constantly try to destroy the beauty that we are trying to manifest in this world. You must continue to walk in a straight line. Do not pay attention to the white noise. Conduct right action and pure truth. And that is the navigation system to manifest the perfect outcome in the new earth.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And this kind of brings me to the Tibetan teachings that I've been following. And so as we are coming out of the Kali Yuga, I believe, and the Kali Yuga is the main pervading energy, is feeding ignorance and greed, right? And with the hungry ghost with a thin throat that tries to eat and can't swallow, now everyone's gripping to those material possessions. But now, since we're transitioning and we're still in the Kali Yuga, we're kind of going through this birthing process and going into the Satya Yuga, which is the golden age, which is the highest, and now you see the wisdom and the magic is returning, right? You see ayahuasca and the teachings and yoga, like when 100, 200 years ago, you would be burned at the stake for practicing magic, but now everyone's, trying to embody all these teachings. They're coming back. And so I really appreciate that to help the awakening process is the Buddha Dharma Sangha concept. The Buddha is the enlightened nature that exists within all of us, and Dharma is the universal truth that everything abides to, and Sangha is the enlightened community of friends that help us get there. So it's a matter of the Sangha that we keep re-looping these conditionings back forth to each other. And so that's why it's so important that we create those sanghas and the new earth and facilitate consciousness in places where then we can come together and reflect our pure essence to each other, and practice it and remember it through each other, right? As the Inlakesh. So thank you. You are my Inlakesh, and you are the Sangha and the community that are watching and planting the seeds and holding these visions together for the earth on this day to reflect back, so that we use our plasma to facilitate the highest state and form of being for all humans.
Thank you.
So be it.
So be it. And will you ever reveal your kin, or it's a secret? I'm just curious.
Yellow overtone warrior.
Yellow overtone. I'm a yellow self-existing star.
Red solar Skywalker.
Yeah, and the day that we met is actually when he turned into my Lakesh, the yellow self-existing star. So it was very serendipitous, confirming that there is divine intelligence orchestrating this whole
guiding us.
Yeah, so even though in the darkness of times, we have to remember that we are still guided, protected, and it will all come to fruition in its time, right?
Yes. And before saying goodbye, for those who want to know more about what you are doing and what projects are you working on, what link should they go, or what is your current website?
It's too confusing. There's too many right now. I think people just find with their psionic intelligence, just intuit your way. If you're interested in anything I'm doing, I'm more interested in law than anything else. This is my main focus, is law and natural justice, especially as it relates to the First Nation peoples. This is the big focus of mine that I'm involved with now. And for the next couple of years, I will be focused almost entirely on creating remedy and soliciting remedy for the I've spoken about this many times, the papal bulls of discovery and the enslavement that was cast by the Vatican and the Roman Catholic Church. Those canons or canon laws are still in place. So the spells, the spell binding is still connected to the earth, and those spells need to be unlocked. So for me, this is a matter of law and application of natural justice to be able to unlock the spell binding that was cast really in the last 500 years against the black skin, brown skin, yellow skin and red skin people, but also against the white skin people. If you understand about what happened in 1472 with Pope Nicholas and King Alfonso in Portugal, that Dom Diversas is a key area of focus, that one of the justices of the International Tribunal has taken up that mantle, and I'm planning to be very involved in helping that revelation to come to the world, because we have to unlock ourselves from the spells that have been cast by the Babylonian masters. They are now of no consequence, all of them. They are of no consequence at all, but the spells that were cast are still intact in some extent, and we need to simply go and unlock and disentangle many of those spells now. That is the importance of enlightenment. That's the importance of consciousness in action, where we place our attention and we release ourselves from these old stories. That for me is very important. Also breakthrough innovation and technologies that will remedy the air, the soil, and the water, especially the frequency radiations that are still also entrapping our world into the Atlantean myth. The fallen light of Atlantis is still holding mutancy in the field. And that is why we have death, decay, and disease in this world. So there is a spiritual dimension to it, which is the spells and the spell binding cast by governments and by religions and by bad history. But also there is real physical material threats against us, the isotopes, the frequency invasion, the mutations at the atomic and cellular level in the air, the water, and the soil. All of these can be remediated. We have the technology now and the capacity now to be able to create a remediation of all of these mutant patterns of imperfection, and to allow for the patterns of perfection that self-exist in this world to reveal themselves. That is the prime focus that I'm interested in. It's metaphysical, but it's also very practical in its application. Thank you for asking.
Thank you as an Overton warrior for taking the fight in the courts and in bringing natural law again to the surface, because it has been covered by these artificial laws and common law. And thank you so much for also bringing this awareness to this large audience that today is celebrating Day Out of Time, peace through culture, and today we're planting the seeds of the future. So this is a great way to really bring this awareness to millions of people who still today are unaware of these tools of manipulation and deceptions. So thank you so much for this awareness, and it's a pleasure to have you today.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
In
Thank
lakshmi.
you. Thank you. Much love. Bye-bye.